turn. I don't think Ruth's grown a half hand in the last 6 months, so we have to conclude that he has reached his full growth. Hey now, Natan reacted to Jaxom's sad sigh. He's bigger than any runner beast by half a head, isn't he? They can be ridden for hours without tiring, right? And you're not exactly a heavyweight like Dorse there. Flying's a different sort of effort, isn't it? True, but Ruth's wings are proportionately large enough to his body to support him in flight. So he is a proper dragon, isn't he? Natan stared at Jaxom. Then he put both hands on the boy's shoulders. Yes, Jaxom, Ruth is a proper dragon, for all he's half the size of his fellows. And he'll prove it today when he flies you. So let's get you and him back to the hold. You've got to get yourself fancied up to match his beauty. Come on, Ruth. I would rather sit here in the sun, Ruth replied, moving to Jaxom's left, his stride graceful as he kept pace with his friend and with the fort weir-leader. There's sun in our court, Ruth, Jaxom assured him, resting a light hand on Ruth's head knob, aware of the happy blue tone of Ruth's lightly whirling, jewel-faceted eyes. As they walked on in silence, Jaxom raised his eyes to the imposing cliff face which was Ruatha Hold, the second oldest human habitation on Pern. It would be his to hold when he came of age, or when his guardian, Lord Lytol, former weaver journeyman, former dragon-rider, decided that he was wise enough. That is, if the other lord holders finally overcame their objections to his inadvertent impression of the half-sized dragon, Ruth. Jaxom sighed, resigned to the fact that he would never be allowed to forget that moment. Not that he wanted to, but impressing Ruth had caused all kinds of problems for the Bendon Weir leaders, Falar and Lessa, for the Lord Holders, and for himself, since he was not allowed to be a real dragon rider and live in a weir. He had to remain Lord Holder of Ruatha, or every younger holdless son of every major lord would fight to the death to fill that vacancy. The worst problem he had caused was to the man he desperately wanted most to please, his guardian, Lord Lytol. Had Jaxom only paused a moment to think before he jumped onto the hot sands of Bendon's hatching ground to help break the tough shell for the little white dragon, he'd have realized what anguish he would bring to Lord Lytol by a constant reminder of what the man had lost at the death of his brown, Larth. Never mind if Larth had died turns before Jaxom's birth at Ruatha Hold. That tragedy was vividly, cruelly fresh in Lytol's mind. Or so everyone told Jaxom repeatedly. If this was so, Jaxom often wondered, why then hadn't Lytol protested when the weir leaders and lord holders agreed that Jaxom must try to raise the little dragon at Ruatha? Looking up to the fire heights, Jaxom noticed that Natan's bronze, Leoth, was nose to nose with Wilf, the elderly brown watch dragon. He wondered what the two dragons were talking about. His Ruth? The trial of the day? He noticed fire lizards, tiny cousins to the big dragons, executing lazy spirals above the two dragons. Men were driving wherries and runner beasts from the main stables out to the pastures north of the hold. Smoke issued from the line of smaller cot-holes that bordered the ramp into the great court and along the edge of the main road east. To the left of the ramp, new cots were being built, since the inner recesses of Ruatha Hold were considered unsafe. How many fosterlings does Lytol have at Ruatha Hold, Jaxom? Natan suddenly asked. Fosterlings? None, sir, Jaxom frowned. Surely Natan knew that. Why not? You've got to get to know the others of your rank. Oh, I accompany Lord Lytol quite often to the other holds. I wasn't thinking of socializing so much as having companions here of your own age. There's my milk brother, Dorse, and his friends from the cot-hold. Yes, that's true. Something in the weir leader's tone made Jaxom glance at him, but the man's expression told him nothing. See much of Falesson these days? I remember that you two used to get into a lot of mischief at Bendon Weir. Jaxom could not control the flush that rose to his hairline. Was it possible that Natan had somehow found out that he and Falesson had squeezed through a hole onto Bendon's hatching ground for a close look at Ramoth's eggs? He didn't think Falesson would have told that, not to anyone. But Jaxom often wondered if touching that little egg had somehow destined its occupant to be his. I don't see much of Falesson these days. I don't have much time taking care of Ruth and all. No, of course.